Alright, 12.6 is all about mutual funds. So many investors put their money in a mutual fund. A mutual fund is offered by an investment company which accumulates the savings of many individuals and invests them in a portfolio of stocks, bonds, or both. The worth of a share of a mutual fund, called the net asset value, or NAV, is calculated daily by most investment companies. The net asset value per share is determined by dividing the total market value by the number of shares outstanding. When you buy mutual funds, you might pay a loading charge of 0% to 6% of the annual amount invested. A Type A mutual funds are front-loaded and make the charge when you buy the fund. Type B mutual funds are back-loaded and make the charge when you sell. The percent you are charged is called the loading rate. Most investment professionals today refer to the loading charge as a load, and the funds are referred to as a load fund. A no-load fund or a low-load fund. The mutual fund classification varies based on what type of loading charge was paid as commission to the investment firm, if any. Alright, so the following formulas are used. You have your loading charge, which is your loading rate, times the amount invested, or this can be the amount of sale. The reason you have to write it as that is if it's in Type A mutual fund, then you're going to pay this loading charge when you invest. If it's a Type B mutual fund, then you're going to pay this loading charge when you sell. This is for a B mutual fund. This is for an A mutual fund. Alright, so the number of shares purchased comes from taking how much you invest, subtracting your loading charge, and dividing by the net asset value. And divided by the net asset value per share. Alright, so like it said, it's a collection of, it accumulates money. So accumulates just means it gathers money. So they'll just keep combining everybody's money and then they'll put it into shares, stocks, bonds. We'll talk about bonds in the next section, but so they're going to take how much you're going to put in the company. They're going to go ahead and take that loading charge away from how much you're investing and then divide it by the net asset value per share. And that's how many shares you're going to end up purchasing with the money you gave them. To find your net selling price. Okay, when you start to sell, when you go to sell your shares, this is for the Type B. Excuse me. When you go to sell, you're going to take your number of shares and multiply it by the selling price per share. And subtract your loading charge. I think the key will say loading share, but I was not paying attention because I guess I was looking up here. But it should be loading charge. Then you always want to know if you make it a profit or loss when you sell. So to find that, you're going to take your net selling price and subtract your investment. How much you get from selling minus how much you put in. It's how much you got minus how much you put in. Gotta be a positive number. Remember, if it's a positive, it's a profit. If it's a loss, if it's a negative, it's a loss, and you write it in parentheses. Okay, so we have two examples. Marine Levy invested $25,000 in a Jennison Dryden Utility Mutual Fund Type A. The net asset value is $15.58 per share. The fund is front-loaded with a loading rate of 5.5%. What is the loading charge? How many shares did Martin buy? Alright, so to find your loading charge, since this is a type A, that means you're paying your loading charge when you invest. So looking at that formula, you're going to take that loading rate, and since this is type A, and I said type A you use invested, type B you use sale, it's going to be loading rate times your amount invested, which our loading rate is 5.5%, which would be 0.055. I'm going to take that decimal, move it to the leftwise. The amount invested, well, he's putting in $25,000. Which in this case is going to come out, that product gives you $1,375. That's how much they've been paying loading charge. Then to find the number of shares purchased, you're going to take the amount invested minus your loading charge and divide it by your net asset value per share. So they're investing $25,000. Their loading charge is $1,375. And the net asset value per share is right here. Net asset value is $15.58. Which is going to come out to be $1,516 with 37 shares purchased. I'm so used to putting a money sign in front of everything. But if it asks you for shares, there should be no money sign in front of it, because this is shares. This is not money we're talking about. Sorry, my video is lagging. Okay, so next would be example 2. So that's a type A mutual fund. This next one's going to be a type B mutual fund. So the Washingtons invested $35,200 in the Franklin Templeton B mutual fund. The net asset value of the fund at the time of purchase was $14.08 and was backloaded with a loading rate of 4.25%. When the Washingtons sold their fund shares, the net asset value is $15.75. How many shares did the Washingtons buy, considering the back-end load? How much profit or loss did the Washingtons make on their investments? All it means by backloaded is that you're not paying your loading charge when you buy into it. You're gonna, when you buy into this mutual fund, you're not paying a loading charge, so your loading charge is 0. And as long as you stay in there, you're good. It's when you decide that you're going to sell your shares, that's when your loading charge will hit you. And so in this case, to find the number of shares purchased, note that we're not starting by finding the loading charge first, because we know it's 0. We start by finding the shares purchased. Remember, the shares purchased is how much you invested minus the loading charge divided by the net asset value per share. So in this case, they invested $35,200. Remember, the loading charge is 0. And the net asset value when they invested was $14.86. Oh, I'm glad that's not timestamps when you make these videos. This is going to come out to be $2,500. So they purchased 2,500 shares. We're in December. Oh no, actually ask us how many shares they purchased, so we can box this number in. Okay, starting this over, coming back to the front. Alright, to find the back loading charge. Notice in the example it says that they bought, and then it's talking about them selling their charges. So when they're selling, since this is a B, we're going to be using that second one where it's going to be that loading rate times your amount of sale. So they had a loading rate of 4.25%, which would be 0425. 0.0425. Their sell, they're going to sell 2,500 shares. And if you note over here, it says that the net asset value when they sold, the net asset value is $15.75. So they're selling each share. They bought, when they were buying it, it was at $14.08. Now that they're selling them, it's at $15.75. This is going to come to a total of $1,673.44. So this is how much they're going to pay on that backloading charge. Remember, it only goes with the amount of sale. This is a B mutual fund. B mutual fund. Then to find your net selling price, you're going to take the number of shares, multiply it by the selling price per share, and subtract your loading charge, which I believe is our third formula on the front. Yes, that is our third formula. So our number of shares, we have 2,500 shares at $15.75 each. Notice it's exactly what this is, your amount of sale. Subtracting by your loading charge, which was $1,673 with 44 cents. Sorry guys, if I don't do this, it bugs me. I'm a little OCD about some things. That's why, if you notice, like I use the same colors for everything throughout the whole worksheet. Alright, this is going to come out to be a total of $37,701.56 as your net selling price. So when they sold all of their stocks, and you might not even see all of this going on, you might just say, hey, I want to sell, and get yourself a broker and have them sell it, and you won't even, like, they'll automatically just charge your loading charge or everything, and they'll just tell you, oh, here you go, this is how much you got back for your selling price. You could always ask them, okay, well, like, can I see what happened? So, like, you're not the one doing all this, somebody else does all this math for you, and you just see how many shares you had, how much money you put in, how much money you got back when you decided to sell. There's probably honestly somebody in the mutual fund that takes care of all of this with the selling and everything, and they just tell you the money and give you the money. So to find the profit or loss, and if somebody does that, make sure you be like, oh, well, can I see all the transactions that happen? So you're making sure they're not robbing you of money, because that's the easiest way to steal someone's money. Is if you're in charge of money like this, you can easily slip out money and be like, well, here you go, especially for people that don't go back and check on that. So then to find your profit or loss, you're going to take that net selling price and subtract your investment. So remember, on all these investments, how much you get back better be more than how much you put in. So in their case, they got back $37,701 with 56 cents when they put in $35,200. So since this gave us a positive number, that's a profit. They got back a profit of $2,556. That just means that at the end of the day, they ended up making $2,500 more than what they had originally put in. Because when you sell these stocks, so when you buy them, you're putting money in. When you're selling them, you're wanting to get back the money you put in plus more money. Okay. yeah, that's gonna be the end of that, man. Alright.